Welcome in, folks. My name is Matt Goins, trainer for the WiscWeb team, and we are just going to do a little bit of a training stream on just some things to do with Google Analytics. I did one of these a few weeks ago, maybe a little bit over a month ago. So this is just a kind of a repeat of what we chatted about in that one previously, but just to introduce just a few ideas um, of analytics in general, and then just kind of detail some of the things that you might want to take a look at when you are using analytics and how to analyze what the data is telling you, and then also how to use some of that information as well. So um, the general idea or my general hope is that you're watching this and you have already set up Google Analytics as a part of your WiscWeb site. If you haven't yet, you can take a look at our knowledge base, kb.wisc.edu/wiscweb, and then specifically kbdoc number 69291. That one will actually walk you through the process of using um, or setting up Google Analytics for yours site. One of the things I just want to point out just really quick, because this is one that I'm starting to get this one quite a bit. Um, Make sure that when you are setting up your various Google services for your site, so Google Custom Search Engine and Google Search Console, Google Tag Manager, and Google Analytics are, obviously the four that we make use of within the WiscWeb service. Make sure that you're using a service account to be the administrative account of those. I've been getting quite a few emails in lately about uh, people not having access or wanting to grant access to their analytics accounts. Um, so you need to make sure that someone somehow has access to these things. And a service account means that no matter who comes and who goes, you can still have somebody who's a part of that service account log in and then continue to grant access to those things. And I'll kind of walk through what that looks like in a little bit to show you like how that's set up for at least for our sites. So, um, rundown about what we're going to talk about this afternoon in this particular class. Again, I schedule these trainings for roughly a couple of hours. I can't imagine that this will take longer than an hour, but if there are a few questions that come through, some things that you might want to take a look at yourself, I'm more than happy to chat about some of those things. So logging into Google Analytics, let me just bring that part of it up here. Um, so logging in, you can log in at analytics.google.com. And when you get to that sign in screen, I'm already logged in. I probably should have done this from the start. When you get to that sign in screen for Google, you can actually log in with your NetID at wisc.edu. So, that allows you to give access or get access to various Google services, but still using your campus email account. Another side note about like setting things up for your campus functionality using personal like Gmail accounts or something like that. Not ideal. You want to try and keep things that are university related attached to university related identities. Um, so upon logging in, you will land on likely whatever is the default or first uh, account in your list. So when I log in, because I have been given access to a number of different uh, analytics accounts, I always land on business services first when I'm in. But then I just go down, I click up here in the little drop down right there, and I go down and I find the site, the account that I want to get access to, the property, obviously it's the WiscWeb site, and then the view. So the views are something that I'm not going to get too far into in this particular class. Mainly, I'm not comfortable with teaching other people how to use them. I understand how to use them. I'm not comfortable teaching folks how to do them because there is the potential there for accidentally um, doing something with your views that could potentially wipe out a lot of the data that you had been collecting. So I'm always nervous about the views, but I'll talk you through what they are and what the benefit of them are. Um, so once you're in, you will land on your home screen. And this is just a basically a heads up view of what's going on your particular page. So, right now, uh, this would show me some information. Let me refresh this because that's not showing up there. There we go. So you got a heads up of essentially what your performance has been like over the past week. It defaults to the last 7 days, so you can see like how many users, how many sessions, um, uh, the bounce rate, and I'll kind of touch on that as we go throughout this course, and then how long the session duration is. Um, your active users, this is kind of like a real-time view right here. So I have currently on the Whisk website one active user, and the page that they're on is the home page. That's what that slash is. It's the main page there. Going down, you can see how do people get to my site? How do I acquire users? Usually the two that are going to be the greatest for, at least for the Whisk website, is direct, which means that they directly clicked on a bookmark or typed in wiscweb.wis.edu. And then organic search is they went to Google, they went to some sort of search engine and um, typed in something to get to my site. And again, we'll build on that in a little while. Uh, Geographic information, you can see where have your users come from over the last X days. So over the last 7 days, over 1,000 sessions for the Whisk website from the United States, two from Canada, and then you can kind of see there are some others um, out there. You know, bots, random passerbys, whatever it might be. But this will give you some of that information. Your popularity by time of day. So when is your site most active throughout the day? Um, so there you can kind of see, I mouse over and I can see on average, 75 people are on the site at 1 p.m. on a Thursday, 82 at 2 p.m. So, but that's on average over the month. So that just gives you an idea of, this extrapolated out to, you know, uh, the last 30 days there. What pages are currently the most visited? Always the home page. The 403 error page is the one where people go to a particular URL and that page doesn't actually exist. They get kicked to our 403 error page. This happens a lot too when someone types in a particular URL and that site hasn't gone live yet, so they'll get our error page be- because of um, uh, um, uh, the URL being out there and the site still being an actual Whisk website. So that's that. Um, yeah, the active users, the trend there, what types of devices they're using. Um, Again, just information that might be relevant to you. So I always joke about this when I'm teaching the beginners class that my audience isn't going to be the same as your audience. So my audience is always going to be a primarily desktop audience because most of you are going to be editors of your site, content creators, and you're going to be doing your work from a desktop, a laptop, a typical desktop machine. But your audience might trend more towards these two based on who you're trying to communicate information out to. So again, like students, if you're a site that is heavily used by students, mobile is probably going to be higher for you. So again, just that type of information. Retaining users, how well do you get users to come back? And we'll talk about goals later on as well. This just tells me how my goals are performing, but we'll talk about what that means um, a little later on in this session. So some of the things that we want to talk about. So this is the default view of the site when I log into analytics. But what I can do is I can also create a custom dashboard. So if you go to customizations over here and then go to dashboards, you can actually create some customized dashboards out there. And so I've already created some because I've done this training a couple of times now, but we'll go ahead and click create. And it will ask me what type of dashboard do I want to create. Now, there is the ability to have like a starter dashboard, which will have some default views in it. I can also import a dashboard from an existing like external gallery. So a lot of users have created dashboards for people to use. A lot of the dashboards that I run across whenever I'm looking at um, anything related to analytics, and honestly, anything that I look up, I shouldn't say anything, a lot of things that I look up in relation to Google Analytics, they have a lot to do with like business sites, e-commerce, social media, and things of that nature, which isn't necessarily the audience or the information that you might want for yours. So I'm just going to stick with blank canvas. So we'll call this Matt April dashboard, and I will click create dashboard. And now we have ourselves a blank slate. And so the first thing that it will prompt you is, what is your first widget going to be? Well, I'm going to do a real-time counter right here because I always want to know like how many people are here right now. I could add additional dimensions if I wanted to. So I could say how many users are coming from a particular city. Now that's not going to work for me very well because uh, WiscWeb site doesn't get that many users um, to be able to segment that out at real time. But you could do that if you wanted to. You could add some dimensions in there. You could add some filters in there. I'm not going to worry about any of that stuff, so I'm going to click Save. And there, it will tell me active users right now, 1. I can edit that a little bit, and um, I could say page or page title and save. So there it goes. There's the 403 error. I should say this is also the error you might end up seeing if you're not VPN'd in to our site. So there's one. There I created the real-time counter, the active users, and I added what page they're on. So again, just a real quick like heads up look at what you might want to be seeing there. I can add another widget by clicking up here. And let's do a standard timeline. And I think I'll add page views. So I'll add that metric and I will click save. And that one will go there, but I can drag and drop it because right now my dashboard is in, I believe it's 3 columns at the moment. Yep, it's a 3-column layout. So now I can see page views over the past, and I can put in, um, let's see, add a metric. Nothing for date. I'm not worried about a filter particularly. I was wondering if you could do by date. Hey, come Could do time on page. That'd be interesting. So you can kind of, I'm doing like a comparison of um, on this day, 308 page views, and the average time on page was 2 minutes 24 seconds of those 308. So that's just averaging everything out. Obviously, Saturday went down, and then back up on Monday. So, uh, so again, this is just one more thing there. Let's see here. Add another widget, and let's do a pie chart. So pie, and then I'm going to add a dimension of page views again, and then I'm going to add the dimension of day of week. Day of week name. Let's change that to day of week name. There we go. So that way it actually will display what the name values are there. I can up that to 6 slices if I want to. We'll go ahead and do that. Nothing else really specific there, so I'll click save. That goes down there, so I can click that up there. And so you can kind of see here's your legend. Obviously Saturday and Sunday. Saturday would be the other here. Um, very low. But for the most part, it looks like Monday, not surprising, first day of the week, a lot of people are going to come in and um, log in to their site via uh, the WiscWeb URL. That is our highest day. But then it's pretty even across the board for us, roughly in the 3 to 320 range for our views there. And then one last widget to add. Again, just trying to show you just some different things that this might use. I'm going to go with a real-time table. And a real-time table can only track active users. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to add the dimension of page and then um, traffic type. And then click save. No data for that. No, that's let's do it. Let's do it this way. Let's do page. Can't do that. Again, WiscWeb not the best to use for this because there are no active users right now. So essentially what this table would have shown was um, what the active page is that they're on, and then from there, how did they get there? So what's the source of the traffic? So did they get there via direct? Did they get there via organic? So did they get there via a search or a direct link or something of that nature? So that's dashboards. Again, this is just an easy way for you to sort of customize instead of getting all of this information, instead customizing that to be more of so here's what I did a couple weeks ago or about a month ago, which is active users none, same idea here. Here's what I did with that one, and then this was just a page views. um, so this one was table, page, and page views. And then I could add an additional metric if I wanted to there, but I didn't need to with that one. So that's the dashboards aspect of it. Again, if you have any questions, please go ahead and ask them in the chat. But let's go ahead and move into the next little section that I want to talk about, which is something that um, I think people would be very interested in, since we do really encourage people to turn on their site search. So, we really do encourage people to have the site search turned on so that um, you can offer people an ability to actually search for the actual terms themselves. So, eh, sorry, working from home. Um, so one of the things you might want to do is you might want to track what terms people are using when they go up and use that search functionality in the upper right corner there. So how you do this, there's a couple of steps to this part, because first off, you have to actually activate your analytics to begin tracking the actual site search functionality, and then you have to tell what the parameters are of that search functionality. And so I'll walk you through what that means right now. So the first thing you have to do is you have to tell your site to actually track the searching. So you'd go to your admin area, which is this gear icon down here, and you would go all the way over to the far right, which is the view settings. So click on view settings, some information in there. And then if you scroll on down, there's a little slider right here that says Site Search Tracking. And you need to turn that one on so that you can actually start tracking it. Then you need to tell analytics what the parameter is that they need to search or use as the search value that displays the term. Essentially, what happens is if you go to your site, I'll just type in a term, the value that shows up after this question mark, because this question mark is essentially creating the query, that's our parameter value right there. Because you can see S equals, and then there's the term that I use. So that's why that S is necessary in there, is because you need to tell the analytics to grab that particular value there. So I just need to put the S in and then click save. So once you have it set up, once you have your site search functionality set up, now what you can do is over here on the left side, you can expand behavior, and then two areas over here, both under site search. So I could do an overview, and that'll just give me a little bit of information. And so again, WiscWeb, not the best for this, but what I can do is I can click on usage, and essentially this will break down over the last 7 days, 1,081 sessions, the vast majority are without a search. 6 visits did use the search functionality. And so, that just tells me, is the search being used at my site? Again, I know what the content of my site is, and I know what the large use of my site is for. It's usually for clicking the login button or accessing the training page up here. So usually a search isn't going to happen within our site. But if I want to see what terms were used, I could click on search terms over on the left, and there you can see here are those 6 unique searches. Here are what they were. So again, I mean, it's a very difficult way for me to show you this because the WiscWeb site is what I have access to, and to use that as my demo doesn't show you all that much. I could try it over here. And so I'm logged into a different account right here. And in this account, this was my, like, I use this for my Google Analytics training stuff. This account has access to Google Analytics, Google, I should say, their merchandise stores analytics. And so if I go to behavior and go to site search, and again, just an overview, they might not be using it or they might not have it turned on. Yeah, so not a better value there. So that's just the way to walk through that. And again, I don't have much to show you because of the site that I use, but the idea is there, and I think it's something that is relevant for your use, mainly because one of the things I always encourage anyone to do when they are building their site or they're looking at rebuilding their site or looking at restructuring their content is get an idea for what your audience needs or wants. And this is one of those things. This is part of that whole user research is kind of looking into what they're using your site for. Now, obviously, user research is way more entailed, and um, going to talk to the people directly is the most important part of that process. But here's a start. Like, what are they looking for? How are they using my site? Why are people searching? Why would somebody search for Big Ten and at my site? I don't know. So embed PDF, that one makes sense. How do you embed a PDF? How do you share a link? Okay, link check. We have a serv or not a service, but we have a site that we link off to, which is brokenlinkchecker.com. So that'd be something to search for as well there. So um, that's using the on page or on site search functionality and getting to know that. The other aspect that you could do is, and this is relatively new-ish, but we have set up Google Search Console. Let's see. I don't know if I have the KB doc out there yet. I don't think I have the KB out there yet, but what you can do is you can connect your Google Custom Search. I'm sorry, not your Google Custom Search. You can connect your analytics to your Google Search Console. And what you would do is you would then, with those two connected, you would then be able to track what terms are people searching Google for. It's Google integration there. What terms people are searching Google for to actually get to your site as well. And so to be able to track that, I guess just to start with, let me go back here. Um, Adding Google Search Console to your site, this is the one that is the start of that process, and setting up Google Search Console. And this is just important because what this does is this allows you to get Google to actually acknowledge that your site exists, essentially. So this is KBDoc 90062. So, you want to, I recommend getting that set up anyway, but I need to document the other steps of this, which is connecting the two. There, you could actually do a Google search yourself and just find, applying Google Search Console to Google Analytics. Um, but then to actually see how this works, you would go to Acquisition, and then you would go to Search Console, and then you would look at Queries. And here is the way that people get to my site from search engines. Now, not surprising, not surprising, not surprising, not surprising, not surprising. Eh, eh, what? This is that. This is like, why would this matter at all? And then these other two. So this, I don't know how these three. would get people to my site, or it's an impression, so it showed up in a search list. These are the ones who actually clicked through and in to my site. But that's just something to think about with your site. Again, is with your content strategy and with your content creation, you know, making sure that you are getting certain keywords into your site, so that it's Google can, it can be a part of Google's search algorithm in there as well. So there's that one. Again, using the search functionalities to make some content decisions, I think, is something that you should really take a look at. Let's see. Next on my list, how to track your top performing content. So basically, this one is, we've already kind of touched on this already, but if you go to uh, behavior, site content, and then all pages, this just kind of gives you an idea of what pages on your site are performing well. You can expand this to be, so let's say I want to show 100 rows instead of just the 10. I can go on down the line. But a few things to take a look at on this particular report. So obviously page views. Um, Page views is, how many times this page has been viewed. Unique page views are, it's essentially unique versus page view is, um, I'm trying to think of the right way to say this so that it makes sense and I don't confuse myself at the same time. There's a uniqueness between a user and a session, and um, a session happens every 30 minutes at a website. So somebody could be looking at wiscweb.wisc.edu for 30 minutes and be in another tab. This session will time out, but then suddenly they come back 45 minutes later. Oh, they have this tab still open. They click training, it triggers a new session. And so during that session, how often has this page view been viewed versus, during that 30, during or outside of that 30 minutes, how has it been, uh, how many times has it been viewed? So that's where these page views versus unique page views come into play, is that session idea of, is it in or outside of the session that a person actually visited your site from. Um, Analytics. Whew. So average time on page, again, something that you might want to take a look at just from a standpoint of, um, uh, you know, if you know that there's a significant amount of content on a page and a person should be spending longer than 20 seconds on that particular page, that might give you an idea as to whether or not that content is really working, or are they simply leaving because it's too much, too overwhelming. Again, user research would be something to take a look at there, but again, this is a good indicator. Um, the bounce rate. So I talked earlier about the bounce rate idea. So bounce rate is essentially the percentage where a person got to this particular page and then did nothing else, just essentially left your site. Didn't interact with anything on the particular page that they landed on, it just kind of left. So overall, the bounce rate for WiscWeb, pretty high, 72%. And then you look down these pages here, you can see it's high down the road, or down the row column. Um, but I know my content, and I know that people come to my pages for particular pieces of information and then don't need to interact with other parts of the site. So, for example, let's see, what's one that has a high bounce rate? So, the home page, 66%. Well, most of the time when people come to the home page, they're looking for these links right here. These links actually take you out of our site. They bounce you out of our site because they trigger you to go into um, the Shibboleth login process, the NetID authentication process. And so it actually bounces you out of our site. You come back, but it still bounces you out. So that becomes part of the bounce rate. Whereas if I look at my better performing page here, the training page has 18%. So if I go to the training page, now is not ideally the time because I don't have any events happening down here. But there are other things that people can click on from here. They can look at the events that I have down here. They can click through and check out the training videos that I have posted right here. So, that shows me that there is some other interaction, and that is a good way for me to know that okay, stuff's working on that page. All right, well, where are they going from there? So, so that's something to take a look at as well. Excuse me. So another thing to look at when you're over in the site content area is the exit pages, because that'll also tell you where are they leaving your site from. What page are they on when they actually leave your site? So this is similar to what we had already seen, but this is just this unique particular one. The highest one is the homepage. Well, I just talked about the fact that that makes sense to me because people leave because they're clicking on the login link up in the upper right. We have some error pages here. Whoops, didn't mean to do that. We have a few error pages here. That makes sense that people would leave directly from those because what does it matter? Um, and then I can look at okay, they get to our knowledge base page or our live WiscWeb websites and the FAQ and things like that. So all this does is it tells me from what page they are exiting from my site. If it's a page where I know that it's kind of like an end of the line content type thing, it would make sense. These make sense. This one makes sense. This one doesn't make sense because usually when you go to the request a new site, there's more to do with that than than just looking at that page. There's some things to fill out on there. There's the hope that you would go into more of the content there. So maybe we need to update this. Now this is a form page as well, so that might be part of the issue there. Um, so Linda, your question: how does bounce rate differ from exit page? Exit page just tells you where in your site they're leaving from. Bounce rate tells you how whether or not they've done anything on that particular page. So again, if they land on my homepage and they do nothing, the bounce rate is that they've left and did nothing else within the site. But if I go to training and then I go to contact and then I come back here and then I leave, that's an exit rate. How does it differ from percentage of exit? Oh, let's take a look. Let's mouse over. Let's see. I think it just has to do with the fact that this is just simply the the page where they've ended their session at your site. So bounce rate, that percentage just specifically says they did nothing once they landed on that page. This just says that they've left from that particular page. I'm not really sure how to best explain that. I think I can see it in my brain, but what bounce rate at the end of the day, I can explain what bounce rate means. Exit percentage is probably a little bit more difficult for me to explain, but bounce rate basically means they've done nothing within my site. They landed there and then did nothing else. Whereas the exit is they could have done something else within the site. This is just the spot where they are leaving from my site. I'll show you behavior flow here in a little bit because that way you can also track um, usage through your site to see how people are clicking through various pages. But in this case, I don't know the best way to explain this. I can explain this. This one is just basically no interaction. This one is there could have been or was interaction. It's just that this is the place that they have left from. This is the value of where they are leaving from your site. Um, so I might have to tap Jonathan, who's our Google Analytics expert on the team, or maybe Adam Hillsmeyer from um, Academic Technology. They would probably be better able to answer what the what the difference is, but what the importance of the two are. This one is important just because you want people to interact, you want your bounce rates to be low. What does this percentage mean? So I would have to gain some further information for that. Um, so I guess just to kind of play into that next thought is so okay, I can see what's happening on the pages, like where they're going, how long they're staying, etc. But another aspect over here under behavior flow is, or I'm sorry, underneath behavior is the behavior flow, and this is kind of what I was leading with uh, Linda's question there, which is I can track what they're doing when they get to my site. Um, so, here's where people start at over here on the left. Um, it is, I can zoom in on a particular section here, and you can kind of see this is gets a little bit unwieldy to view from time to time. But essentially, I'm looking for some of these higher numbers here, and I can see, well, the home page is the main landing page that they land on. So now I kind of want to look at this traffic specifically. And so now what I can do is I can click on highlight traffic through here. It's going to dim everything else out. Now I can zoom in a little bit just to give myself a little more space, and you can kind of see the numbers as they go through. So the starting page, the home page, 24%, almost 25% move through the site, 443 or 75% drop off from there. Um, so where do they go if they move through? Well, it looks like they might have clicked on something that got the 403 error page. This one again would probably lead me to believe clicking the login button and not being connected to um, VPN there. Down here, the getting started. Well, we have um, some through traffic there. Uh, the training page. Um, we have some through traffic there. So this is their first interaction starting from here. And so there, if I want to keep going through here, you can kind of see these lines now are, it's kind of like a spider web of your site, but you can kind of see here is what their interactions are. So if I wanted to follow, because I'm me, I want to highlight through the traffic. So they landed on training. What is their next interaction after training? Well, there's 19 more pages. So if I click on group details, oops, sorry, did that kind of fast, it shows me that there are 19 more pages that people interact with. So if I click on that one and click on group details, I can see. These are the various ways that they um, work through my site. Again, 32 sessions, 13 drop-offs from there. Um, this is where they go after they land on the training page. So some of the things in here not too surprising. The getting started. Usually, when you come to the training page, you're looking at the upcoming trainings and things like that. Um, the beginning videos, so kind of things like that. Or they go up to the home page, and again, so kind of following this, we'll follow this path. First, first start within when they get to my site is the home page. 145 go through. Well, 7 of them get to the training page. 5 go through more, 2 leave. This becomes that exit page. They go through, they come back to the home page. 15 go through, 27 drop off. This becomes that exit page. So that's where that exit and bounce functionality is. If they land here and do nothing, it's a bounce. But if they land here and do something, it's not a bounce. That's where that exit percentage and that exit value starts to come more into play there. And so again, this is just a good idea. Again, WiscWeb, not the best site to highlight this kind of stuff, but think about your content and how you want people to actually work through your pages and work through your site. You want them to go to other particular informational pages. Well, are they actually getting there? How are they getting there? Are they following a particular path? So if I had on training, like I said, with the group details, I have a couple of links that are specific on training. Any of our open labs would be here. Um, the beginner videos would be here. So these would be, oh, are they getting to those pages that I've made available via specifically my training page? So that's informational for me. And then again, lastly, we get to um, back to the 403 error page. Again, I consider that to be the logging in without the VPN in. Um, and some of this stuff is just information that I would probably know off the top of my head already. Getting to our knowledge base, the getting started tab. How do you actually get started with WiscWeb? We build out, I would probably say on average about 5 new sites a week we get requested in um, these days. So this stuff isn't surprising to me. So that's that. So that's the behavior flow. I'm trying to look at my notes here to see if there's anything else that I wanted to talk about with that. So let's see. Also, I could, if this is relevant to you, I could change this to not tell me the landing page, but I could say, um, what's an acquisition? Um, so source medium is a way where I could track the behavior flow through which, let's see, I'm going to restart this guy. Let's go back to behavior flow. Okay. And then back over to source medium. I just wanted to get rid of the path there. But what source medium will do is source medium will actually tell me how are they getting to my site? What is the way that they've gotten to my site? And then by looking at that, what is the path that they're taking? So, for example, Google Organic, this is search. This is um, people went to Google to get to my site. So what's happening once they get to here? Um, so they'll get a site not found. Um, so this is where I'd go, well, what search term were they using? I don't know that I can look at that through here to find that stuff. New WiscWeb customers, not surprising. The training page, not super surprising. There's 30 more there, but I would be curious as to what this path is. Why did we have search for us at Google, click on something, 403 error page. That would require some research on my end. But again, the larger majority of use and processes, they get to our starting page, and then I can start to track through what that all means. So that's just something else. Let's see, is there anything else in here? I mean, if you had campaigns like ad campaigns or marketing campaigns, you could try to do that stuff. Events. I'm not going to get into events in this one. Behavior. Nothing there. Users. I mean, if you were really interested, I could check like my geographical um, behavior flow if you were interested in that. Several people in Sun Prairie, most in Madison. What I should have done, you know, hindsight being 2020, is created a snapshot of or created a view that started on what was it, March March 16th, I think, was when Madison went to its uh, recommended work from home stuff. That would have been interesting to see what a comparison of that was, and I could probably create some reports, and I'll show you how to do that in a second here. To look at that stuff, but to kind of look at some of these types of things where what happened then, and what happened when things started to happen. Okay, last thing in my notes that I want to touch on, and then I'll just kind of bounce around with a couple of ideas. There is how to create goals for your site. So goals are a way for you to track particular, I guess, processes or conversions that you want to sort of um, you might have like a priority within your site of I want X number of pages clicked, or I want X amount of time spent within my site. So that type of stuff can be tracked through goals. So to set your goals, you'd go to your admin area again, go over to your view area and click on goals. And so you can see I've created a few, but I will create some other ones. So I will create one new goal. You could create it based on a template. Most of these templates really um, don't really interact with RUW theme. So you would need to do a custom and then click continue. Give it a name, Matt April goal. This value here. And so then you can actually set what the type of goal it is. So if it's an event, or if it's pages or screens per session, are they on your site for a particular time, or do they reach a particular destination? So let's try destination for this one, and I'll go and grab the training URL. Okay, and then continue. And then I'll just grab the full URL, see if that works. um, I could assign a monetary value to it. No, I don't need to do that. I could specify a path that I expect traffic to take. So, you know, this I need to tinker with a little bit more to learn, but basically it could be like, how often do they go from home to my page, or how often do they go from Open Labs to my page, that type of thing. I'm not worried about that, really. So you can click verify this goal to see what the conversion rate would be. And so this wouldn't be a very good goal because it only has a 2% conversion rate. Um, so they don't, over the last 7 days, this would be a low conversion rate. How about this one? Lower. Again, WiscWeb, not the best. Help. Customer support form. This one actually isn't getting much use lately either because all of our ModSec errors have pretty much gone away. Yeah, so this one's not really getting used over the past week. Um, Again, like I said, most of our ModSec errors are going away. So I could say, yeah, you know what, that's not really a good goal. So let's say, how many pages does a person visit per session? So if I click continue, and I want to track, or I want the goal to be more than 2 pages per session. So if I save it, here's my April goal. And so it will start recording it. Now, it's the same goal as what I have here, pages per session, and then the details greater than 2. So you can see for that one, the past 7 days, it has converted 158 times. So 158 times, someone has visited more than 3 pages per session. So that's, to me, that's good. That you're not just coming and hitting one spot and then moving on. Um, so here's that other one. So that training URL, again, over the last 7 days, not ideal, but you know, 23 times they landed on that particular page there. So, I show you this just because I know some folks are very interested in making sure that people get to particular points, and this is important for other folks. So, faculty members who are interested in their research being viewed. You want your undergraduate admissions pages to be viewed. You can create that as a goal and use that as um, the way for you to actually gauge whether or not what you are looking to have happen is actually happening. Um, I'm always a big fan of whenever I'm training people or whenever I'm working with people. I shouldn't say training because I don't, I know how to use analytics. I wouldn't call myself, an expert in it. But when I'm walking people through how to use the basics of analytics, I'm always a big fan of using analytics to get rid of stuff because my idea is I'm a very simplistic um, web designer. I want my sites and my pages to be as straightforward and simplistic as possible. I want people to get to the content as fast and as easy as they can. And if the content isn't relevant, there's no point to have it be out there. If people aren't interested in it, that tells me that it's not necessary. You know, this type of stuff gives you that sort of information. It tells you that no one is using it, or yes, people are using it. I need to get more people to it. So, okay. So that's the basic rundown of what I had. I wanted to just go over a couple of other things that I don't have in my notes. So one of the things that you can take a look at is if you wanted to, under audience, this basically shows you like people, where people have been going, how often it is you have been visited. Um, there's some information here about language and things like that. Um, let's see here. Again, country, if you're interested, you can get an idea of, so again, some of you may have an international audience. You can see if you're reaching that particular audience. Um, I talked earlier about the fact that some of your audience might be more of a mobile um, audience. So you could actually look at, so for the most part, iOS, iPhones or iPads are the way that people are accessing our site. Um, I could see what browser is most popular. So nothing super um, uh, surprising here. Chrome will usually be first for most folks. Safari being second is interesting, but mainly it just tells me that I have a higher Mac audience. Um, Firefox, not surprising. I think this is a mobile browser here, the Mozilla value there. Edge is the new version of Internet Explorer. I'm not sure what hexameter is, and then this is weird. I'm curious what that uh, does or why that's there. So, um, but then, oops, didn't mean to click further into that, but there you go. Then another thing that you can do is behavior and then overview. This is that same idea of um, viewing content that is being used within your site. Up here in the upper right corner, you can actually change this view. So, um, like I said, everything started getting interesting at March 16th. So I might want to start some information there and apply and get an idea for what my traffic was like from March 16th moving on. Pretty, it looks pretty good. But then, if I wanted to, let's look for some peaks here. So let's end at April 1st, and then let's start, let's say February 1st. So 2 month period there, February, March. Apply. And there you go. You can kind of look at a trend now over a certain amount of time. And again, for us, not no real no real breaks in the trends. Weekends are always going to dip. Mondays are always going to peak. So you can kind of see how that works. Um, you can export this into some value that you might want to use as a report. What does save do? I can, oh, I can save this as a report. I've never done that. Or I can share it via an email. And then the other nice thing about this is, um, if I wanted to, I could. This is where segments get into play, but I'm not going to get into that. So I'm going to go back to the last 7 days, hit apply. So this will always look at the last 7 days, and then I could send this report to someone on a weekly basis if I wanted to, and have it active for however long I want it to be active for. I could send it as an attachment as well. So this is something that I think would be of relevance to maybe some decision makers in your area who aren't necessarily looking at your analytics or who aren't necessarily content creators or content editors. You're the one responsible for this, but they may be interested in this information. You could set up a report that basically says, here is here's a particular report of our usage over the last 7 days. You know, please let me know if you have any questions. So that's interesting. Last 7 days. Um, and I just started tooling around with segments today as well. I need to learn a little bit more because segments, what it does is it actually allows you to kind of do um, parallel lines. So if I wanted to, I have all users versus new users, or the one that I was tinkering with earlier was they performed a site search. Um, Again, not not ideal with the WiscWeb site, but you can kind of see here, um, Thursday, none, three site searches on Friday, none, none, not surprising. 17 page views that performed a site search, 12 back down to 3 there. So, these segments just allow you to, add in some, I guess, some additional parameters to that. I want to learn more about segments because I think there are some very interesting things that you can glean from um, the segmentation of the content, but I'm not certain just yet what what I could do with that. And again, WiscWeb, not the best. So that's about all I wanted to kind of go through with analytics is just some ways to, I guess first and foremost, just kind of talk about what this landing page was when you log into your analytics, and then kind of go through some of the things that you could, just kind of take a look at. I think of all of this, the site search stuff is interesting and relevant. The behavior flow is interesting and relevant. Um, and then just taking a look at the behavior and the content itself, like what pages are performing well. That's all stuff that I think is pretty interesting and pretty relevant to your use of analytics and your sites. So if you have any questions, go ahead and throw them in the chat there. But I'll kind of just hang out for a few minutes here just to see if anybody's there. But that's all I have for you. So thank you for kind of listening in on this, listening to me ramble a little bit. As always, don't hesitate to get in touch with me, matt.goins, Goins, at wis.edu. And we can set up a Teams chat if you want to kind of talk via voice or through email there. So take care, everybody. Stay safe, and I will talk to you all hopefully soon. Just kind of meandering through my through my screens, just looking for things, just kind of hanging out. This is interesting. The average load time for a page is 2 seconds, but I think that gets skewed. 'Cause that's kind of weird that these all have zeros. But like this one right here, Internet Explorer, a 3 second page load time. Firefox is a 4 second load time. Why is that a 4 second load time? So there's a way that I don't know about to dig in further to find out that is where that load time is coming from. That's from Tuesday. So what happened on Tuesday with that particular browser? So, so anyways, this is an interesting thing. What else? Your acquisition just shows you again. We already talked about what this is the medium, the source and medium thing. So uh, um, direct, Google, Bing. I'm not sure what hexometer.com is. I might take a look at that. DuckDuckGo, that's another search engine. Princeton referral. Referrals are links somewhere. Somebody linked out to you, and that's how they got there. So analytics is a deep well to fall into, but interesting um, information regardless. So, okay, folks, I'm going to cut out there. I'm going to put my email address in the chat. If you guys have any questions, please drop me an email, and I will talk to you all soon.